Are y'all ready to head off the trails? I'm the Cryptid Huntress, Jessica Jones, and I'm ready to take you on a mysterious journey right now. We welcome you to Off the Trails right here on the Spaced Out Radio's YouTube channel. If you guys haven't hit subscribe yet, please do. We would love to have you. Yeah, shout out to Bumblefoot for that amazing intro music. I always appreciate that. That's just rocking out right there. I like it. Okay. You guys, please follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. You can find me at thecryptidhuntress.com, and please subscribe to my YouTube channel, The Cryptid Huntress. I have an amazing daytime show every Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern. It's kind of a free-for-all. Talk about a lot of really cool stuff there. And every Thursday night at 8 p.m. Eastern, I do a remote viewing show. And lately, I've been having Barry Littleton on. He's been giving me blind targets of the coolest stuff. So y'all please tune into that too. And if you'd like to support what I do here on this show and all over wherever I'm at, it's go to my website or my Etsy shop, War Woman Goods. Okay. And also I have a Patreon, The Cryptid Huntress. I'd love to have you guys join that. Also, I'm going to be in Las Vegas with the Spaced Out Radio fan party. That is May the 19th through the 21st. We're going to be at the Golden Nugget broadcasting live. You guys, please come join us. It would be a great way to come hang out and meet everybody at Spaced Out Radio. Okay. And also on April 1st, I'm going to be speaking at the Georgia Bigfoot Conference. And on May the 22nd through the 25th, I'm going to be in Grafton, Illinois with Journey to Truth, their podcast. They're having a huge conference. And I'm going to be there along with a whole bunch of other amazing speakers talking about cryptids and remote viewing. So y'all come join me. Okay. Well, I have a fantastic guest here at Space Out Radio tonight. I have author D.A. Roberts here in the studio tonight. Don't forget that right after this show, After Hours has a great program set up for us. So let's get to our guest tonight. D.A. Roberts is a cryptozoologist, author, podcaster, and field investigator. He lives in Springfield, Missouri with his wife and sons. For most of his career, D.A. has been investigating and researching cryptids for more than 4 decades and is the Central Region Director of the International Dogman Project. D.A. has been featured on numerous podcasts and shows for his writing and cryptid research. D.A. hosts a popular podcast called D.A. Ex Machina, and he's the author of the Apex Predator series, Lakeview Man series, Codename Wild Hunt, the Nightmare Hunter series, Ragnarok Rising series, the Lost Legions, or the Lost Legion, there's no S on that, and Man's Marauders. So please help me welcome to Spaced Out Radio tonight, once again, Mr. D.A. Roberts.
Evening, Jessica.
Hey, I actually went down all the list of all your books. I probably left some out, but I think, did I cover all of them?
You covered all the series. I've got a new series that's about to debut, but it should be out in the next probably month. The first book of that series, and that's going to be called the Dark Frontiers series. It's a cryptid series set in the 1860s.
Oh my gosh! Well, that sounds fun because we know there were cryptids back then. I know there were wild men running all over the place and giants.
Well, we've got a great cryptid story from the Civil War that happened after the Battle of Chickamauga.
That's in Georgia.
They called Old Green Eyes. Supposedly, you can still see him there. But reports from the after action reports from the Army after the Battle of Chickamauga reported large, hairy creatures coming out onto the battlefield and carrying off bodies. Not all of them are dead.
No way. Okay. Well, that adds a whole new element to everything. And actually, Chickamauga is not far from a place that I have researched with my team called Corpsewood Manor. Some people call it Devil Worshippers Mountain. Okay. And there's a long story behind that. It's just a area of high strangeness. Okay. Chickamauga and Corpsewood and all that. Okay. So
I'd love to go there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Georgia is a great place to research. It's a great place to live too. So if I do say so myself, but that's very interesting. I can't wait for that to come out. Yay. Well, man, talking about high strangeness, DA, we've had some really weird things going on in the world the past couple of weeks, haven't we?
Very much so. I mean, it's so much going on right now. It makes you wonder what world-shattering event is about to happen? Is something major about to occur? I mean, you and I have both been saying for about the last year that we've noticed the veil was kind of thinning, that we're
It's
getting more
gone.
cryptid encounters, we're getting more paranormal encounters, but now we've got the government admitting to shooting down UFOs. So
Yeah.
something weird is going on.
Something weird. I just don't know if I'm buying it completely. I don't know. Like I said, I don't know what's going on. It's like, why now? Why are they admitting that now? But that was something I talked about last Sunday. So I'm not going to beat a dead horse. Okay. But it is very odd. And I don't know. I think the veil has thinned. I think there's not a veil anymore, actually, especially for a lot of us. Maybe people who are just really in tune to the paranormal. Um, yeah, we've been feeling something coming for a while. And I think it's time to buckle our seatbelts, DA, because I
I
think
think the
things are
ride's
only
about to
going,
get bumpy.
I think things are going to get more weird for sure. And yeah, I think those of us that are considered woo are not going to be so woo anymore in the next year or two. But that's just my opinion. So yeah. And something that I've been talking about a lot lately are giants and dogmen. And you had a fantastic show last night. Kudos to you and your crew
Thank you.
over at DAX Machina. You guys were
Machina.
talking about, I say Machina. I'm sorry. I put the wrong accent on the wrong syllable. Okay.
There we go.
It happens. It happens.
I got a good group of people over there.
Yes, you do. You guys were talking about Sukalu and
Mhm.
Judicola. I have a little experience with that because I've spent a lot of time up in, well, I guess Cherokee, North Carolina, Cashiers, that whole area. And there's a big rock with petroglyphs on it called Judicola Rock. And they say that's where Sukalu lived right there.
Mhm.
And so I'm very familiar with it. So I was really, really excited about your show last night. So yeah, I
Well,
mean,
part of the research I did when I was researching Soul Glue was I
mhm.
watched your show that you did on it.
Yeah,
That's
well, I sent it to
one of the
you.
videos I watched.
I sent it to you. Well, I remote viewed Sukalu,
Mhm.
Judicola. Yeah. And I was having an interesting time with that because I was seeing there was like I was getting like a half giant, half Sasquatch. So he definitely was like a Sasquatch of some type, but a giant Sasquatch. Okay. A giant Sasquatch. So that jumped from mountain to mountain, right? Isn't that the tale behind it?
Yeah.
Yeah, a
Well,
warrior
the
too.
Judicola Rock is supposedly where he landed and placed a hand on the rock, leaving a
Yes.
seven-fingered handprint behind.
Yes. Yeah. Well, there's a print on there. Well, it's a petroglyph. So yeah, I don't know. I actually remote viewed the Judicola Rock as well, and
Mhm.
it told a story of it was almost like creation and the end times. Okay, so that's a very important rock, very sacred. So don't sit on it like I did. I have a picture of me sitting on that thing. Don't ever do that. It was from a long time ago, but yeah, a great show last night. So tonight I figured you and I could talk about Dogman a little
Sure,
bit
absolutely.
because the sightings are going up. You
Mhm.
mentioned, cryptid sightings are going up. Dogman has become very, very popular because the sightings have really gone up. I mean, I have family that works for the sheriff's department here. They get calls of a werewolf type creature.
Mhm.
Not only have they been getting calls about the north part of the county having a werewolf, but now there's one down here where I live in the south part of the county. A couple actually called into 911 and said that they swore they had hit a werewolf in their car with their car, right? I mean, literally a mile from my house. Yeah, so
Oh.
that happened. Yeah, so the sightings are going up,
Mhm.
and yeah, I
I
mean,
know the number of reported animal attacks, which they always say it's wild dogs. And I'm not going to say, that wild dogs don't attack people because it happens. But some of
yeah.
these events that have happened in the last few months are just that what caused it, it could not have been a normal dog.
No, well, these unspecified animal attacks. You and I have talked about that before on my daytime show. We talked about the FedEx driver that was attacked by the two dogs, and
Hmm.
that was a little odd, right?
Yeah, it was really odd. It was an Amazon driver, but the both the sheriff and the county coroner in that county have said they've never seen an attack like it. Uh, some of the bites were way too big to be any dog that I've ever heard of. Uh, the coroner said the sheer amount of damage that was done to the body was just amazing. He'd never seen anything like it. So to me, that just does, as a career cop, that says that there's more to the attack than they're telling us, especially when the dogs the dogs that the homeowners owned were killed on the spot, and the necropsies were never released. It was never said whether or not those dogs had human tissue in their system.
Yeah. Well, and it was going to be a long time before the autopsy report was coming out, like unusually long.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of these attacks by unspecified animals or dog pack attacks, the bodies are completely torn to shreds, and it just doesn't. It's almost. I'm not going to say
There
it's
was a woman
impossible.
in Crook County, Tennessee, had over 40% of her tissue missing.
Amber, yes,
Yeah, Amber Heard.
yeah,
Not
yeah.
Amber Heard.
That was my zombie bear case
Amber
that I looked
Heard.
into. Yeah,
That's a
yeah,
whole different kettle of fish.
yeah, yeah. So that her and Tony Aaron's actually.
Mm-hmm.
So
I,
Amber
uh,
Miller,
I
right?
had Amber Miller. I had a chance to
Okay,
review both their autopsy reports, and as a
okay.
cop, well, I had almost 20 years in law enforcement. I've seen quite a few autopsy reports in my career. The most telling thing, and I showed this to you see, uh, Robbie Rains, one of my co-hosts is in the chat. He's still a
Yeah, I
cop. I'm
saw him.
retired. I
Oh,
showed it to
okay.
him. I showed it to two or three other people I know that were in law enforcement, and they're like, "Where's the rest of it?" The report had so little actual information. It spent so much time talking about the history of the drug history of drug use by the person that it went more to disparage the victim than it did to say what killed them. And there was just a tremendous amount of information that should have been in an autopsy report that just wasn't there.
Yeah, now, so it wasn't like there in redacted. It just wasn't there at all.
Right. If that was the official autopsy, they were told this is what the script you've got to stick to. There were no autopsy photos, there were no body diagrams, there were no bite diagrams, there were no castings made. This was if that's the official autopsy report, it is the most shoddy autopsy report I've ever seen.
Wow. And okay, and something else with the Amber Miller and Tony Aaron's cases. I know with Amber, the hospital was put under a gag order. Okay, the hospital staff, the doctors, her family. There are a lot of people, and that was very unusual as well.
Yeah, very much so. Because that just doesn't happen. And they instead of what they finally just said, oh, they were killed by dogs, but they kept the case open. So when cases are kept open, they're not subject to Freedom of Information Act.
Okay, so you can't they don't have to release the information. In
Right,
other words.
because it's still considered an active case. As long as they don't close the case, you can't subpoena, you can't Freedom of Information Act the files.
Oh my gosh. So and what you were saying is that they actually were more focused on their drug use and being
Right,
alcoholics or whatever kind of vices they
right.
had than the attack.
The first thing they did was try to make the victim appear unsympathetic. Like you just
Character
shouldn't feel bad because of
assassination.
what. Right. And I'm not saying these were stellar people, but they're still human beings and they deserve the full letter of the law investigation. For this to just be shut up like that is a complete travesty.
It is. It's really sad. Sad for their families. It's sad for them to just not know what happened. And I know, according to my data, there was something very fishy about both of those deaths. And
Mhm.
I did remote view it by someone's request to do so, and I saw it wasn't a pack of dogs. Okay, according to my data. Now, not to say I didn't come up with a dog man either, though. Okay, it was something different. And so I think we have a whole bunch of different cryptids out there. But tonight we were kind of going to focus on Dogman, though, because Dogman seems to go back to the beginning of time, just like UFOs do, actually.
Yeah.
I did a show on Wednesday with my friend John Vandeventer, who's an author,
Mhm.
just like UDA, of the Relic series, and he is retired Air Force. Okay, and so we talked about these UFOs, and I brought up pictures of artwork and paintings that go back to the medieval times and the Renaissance era, even that actually even depicting like the crucifixion of Christ, and there are UFOs in the paintings. Okay, so there's just UFOs and all these paintings, and I don't know if it's been covered up or we just didn't notice. Maybe we have jumped timelines. We're living in the Mandela effect. I don't know. I don't know what's going on, DA. But I
It's
can say it's a little odd.
yeah. Well, the thing is they're always going to be odd. There's always going to be weird cases if you investigate as a cop. And someone mentioned in the chat a minute ago, I've been trying to kind of read the comments as they went by about a lot of DNA being left behind. And it's true. In these cases, in these attacks, there have been DNA left behind. And if they release any information about it at all, what they say is unknown K-9.
Yeah. I know K9. K9. Yeah, that's right. Victim blaming is a big red flag.
Exactly.
Yeah, a big red flag because they're trying to distract you. I mean, I would go out on a limb and say these UFOs that we've had this past week might be a distraction as well from something.
It very well
Just
could
put it
be.
out there. Food for thought. Food for thought, as my friend Barry Littleton says. Okay, but who knows? But you've had your own experiences with Dogman, TA,
Mhm.
and I know you had a video that you had made at the Joe Bald Recreation Area in
Yeah.
Missouri, and tell us about that.
Well, there's a campground here in Missouri called the Joe Bald Recreation Area. It was a campground for years and years, and inexplicably, in about 1999 or 2000, the Army Corps of Engineers shut it down. When we started digging into why, allegedly there was a number of disappearances associated with the park, but even those references can't be found anymore. We've done some pretty deep dives on the web looking for where we found those articles, and even those are gone. But it's a completely overgrown park. It was once a big, well made campground. It's probably I'd say in the ballpark of 75, 80 acres of land along the shore of Table Rock Lake, and this is a place where this is a vacation destination. A half acre of land, just the land's probably going to go for 100, depending on the location, 100,000 or more. So for them to cordon off and shut down this much acreage right on the lake, it's just unheard of. And every time Kimberling City has tried to reopen that park, Army Corps of Engineers has shut them down. And this place has always been a kind of a weird place, especially since it's completely overgrown now. And I knew some cops that worked down there, having been a cop in Southwest Missouri my whole career. um, I knew some guys that worked down there, and I was told by one guy that there was a deputy that used to go down there and park in the old, just like back into one of the old campsites to do reports. Because as cops, you kind of find a way out of the way places as long as there's no calls, so you can do your reports and not have to whip someone knocking on your glass. Okay. Uh,
Yeah.
if we're pulled over to the side of the road, we're probably just doing reports. But anyway, he would back in there to do his reports, and something came up to the back of his patrol car and slammed its hands down on the deck, and he hit the brake light and said all he could see was a hairy chest in his window, and he threw it in drive and just nailed out of there. So that place has got a lot of weird stories associated with it, and I wanted to set a book there. And in fact, the first book of my Lakeview Man series was set in and around that park. So I went down there to shoot a promo video for the book. Myself, my best friend Steve, my wife, and his wife, we all went down there in our van. We were going to shoot a little, just a couple minute promo video, kind of talk about the park. And we hopped out, and like I said, I was a cop at the time, so I was carrying a firearm, and Steve's a concealed carrier, so we were both armed. And it was just went down there like 8 or 9 at night, somewhere something like that, and just gonna shoot a promo video. And I didn't really notice anything weird at the time. The normal night sounds were there, uh, but we shoot this video and we jump in the van and we leave. I go to upload the video to YouTube the next day, and I start noticing there's a lot of eye shine in the background, which
Mhm.
it's Missouri woods. That is not uncommon.
Right.
But just considering the placing of some of the eye shine, I thought, well, that had to be pretty high off the ground. It was probably a raccoon up a tree or something. Flash forward a year and a half later, I've forgotten about this video. I was on a show with another show, and we were talking about Lakeview Man. And I said, yeah, we shot a promo for Lakeview Man down at the old Joe Bald campground. And they're like, hey, can we show that? I'm like, sure. So I sent them the link to my YouTube channel, and we showed the whole video on there. And at one point while we were showing the video, one of the guys in the audience, a guy named Thomas Whitney, goes, hey, DA, I don't want to freak you out, but something moved behind you. I'm like, And I've watched this video 1,000 times. There's nothing moving back there. And he goes, no, dude, I'm telling you, something's moving back there behind that tree when you pan your flashlight across. So I pulled the video. I got the original. It didn't not the one. You put taking a video from YouTube, you're going to lose some clarity. I sent the original one that I shot with my phone to a couple of guys I know that do video editing. And they dug into the video, and what they sent me back was what we have on the Joe Bald breakdown video. At one point, something at about 9.5 feet off the ground with a head shaped a lot like a wolf leans out and looks at us. And as soon as I shine the flashlight back, it goes right back behind the trees. So at the time, I was looking for some clarification on it. Wasn't sure what we'd captured, and I got a hold of Nick Valente and sent it to him, and he said he after he had it for a couple of days, and he emailed me back, and he's like, hey, can I call you? And I said, yeah. So I gave him my number, and he called me. He said I don't want to freak you out, but I think you've got the best example of a type 3 dogman I've ever seen caught on camera. And I'm like, holy crap. And he goes, and I think there's more than one. He said, you guys were pretty close to being surrounded. I'm like, we didn't hear anything. He's like, you probably won't.
It was clear, DA. I saw the picture. You could clearly see a hand looking on the tree, and then a face. Mm-hmm. It was very, very scary. It looked kind of scary, but if it wanted to have hurt you, it would have hurt you.
Yeah, it was close enough. If it wanted us, it would have got us. Absolutely. We went back out to the exact spot, found the exact tree. There were no shrubs or anything anywhere near the tree that it could have been. This tree is just off by itself. And we measured the spot by me trying to reach up to where the head was. We were looking at the video and trying to place it, and it was above where I could reach standing on my flat feet. And we picked a spot and measured it, and where we thought the head was, and estimated it to be about between 9 and 9.5 feet off the ground.
Oh my God, that's huge.
It's a good sized tree.
It's okay. So you had me remote view it, and I did some of my data. Okay, so I actually took a bunch of the different cases that I've done over the past year of dogman, the cases that I've been actually looked into, and I was trying to look for some similarities that we could talk about tonight. And something that I got for the Joe Bald dogman was this thing was a guardian and a watcher. Okay. And so when it comes down to the origins of dogman, there are about 4 categories, I think. There's probably more. Okay. But like the 4 that I kind of broke it down into for tonight. Okay. There's dogman being just a natural creature, DA, like just from the earth, from here, like they've been here all along. There's also the possibility that these things are lab made, like the military's got some kind of secret program going on where they have been created as super soldiers. They could also be what we call the Nephilim, okay? Fallen angels, things like that, that have come down and mated with humans, okay? So there's that possibility as well, which is interesting because my data was suggesting that they are watchers and guardians, and that's kind of what the Nephilim are. Okay. Perhaps. I don't know a whole lot about this stuff. Listen, I'm no expert. I know you're not either. We're not experts on this, but we just putting our ideas together is golden. Okay. It's golden. Now, and the fourth possibility in my book would be like extraterrestrial. Okay. Mm-hmm. Like they came here from another planet, and that is totally not off the table. Okay. That's completely possible.
Right now, all we have is theory, so nothing's really off the table. But there are some theories that are a little more out there than others. But what we try to do on our show is we try to take a evidence-based, logical approach. We never say the woo couldn't possibly happen, but we look for logical explanations for some of these incredible claims. And I think we're making some inroads on a few of them. And we're never going to be able to explain away everything. But I always want to take the approach like they did on the original TAPS, the ghost hunters. If they could disprove it, they will. The first thing is to rule out what it couldn't be. So that's kind of the approach we take. Is there a logical way to explain it? And if not, then we can approach with more, but with more varied approaches. But until we've established the facts of the case, we don't want to say jump to anything wild as a conclusion when it might be something that's easier explained.
Yeah, well, a lot of times dogman sightings are actually bears or possibly even Sasquatch. Okay, they can all very easily be misidentified. But I do have friends that have seen, I mean, people that I know personally that have had up close and personal contact with dogmen. Some of them even claim that they were wearing, Kevlar or some kind of bulletproof vest or something. I mean, by the way, I made this artwork the other day, and this is really fun. Like I made a really interesting one that looks like what a dogman, what someone described as a dogman wearing a militarized like bulletproof vest kind of thing. But the first one I made looked way cuter. Okay, so this is actually a cute little dogman. Okay, I wouldn't be so scared of that one, but that one I would be.
Yeah, that one would probably. If that one showed up, I'd be like, "Who's your good boy? Who's your good boy?"
It looks like my dog Freya. Okay, except I have a German Shepherd too. but yeah, it wouldn't be funny if you actually saw that up close and personal, probably, especially if it was 8 feet tall. Yeah. But yeah, okay. So going back in history, DA, let's go down the list here because Saint Christopher, that's what everybody talks about. Saint Christopher,
the dog-headed saint.
The dog-headed saint, and I had some pictures to show the audience tonight. We have the dog-headed saint here. So, in most of the descriptions of him, or the most of the paintings, he's not portrayed as a dog-headed saint. It actually looks like a human. Okay, this is what a lot of the pictures. He just looks like a hairy man.
When he converted to Christianity and performed his first miracle, he was supposedly, God healed him and made him look normal, look like a normal human.
But okay,
yes, he was supposedly afflicted with this, whatever some might call it, a disease, or he was this good dog-headed saint. Although in that one he kind of looks like a horse. But he was the dog-headed saint until he performed his first miracle.
Okay, well, the story that I know of him was he was so large. He was like 7.5, 8 feet tall, just a superhuman. But he had a dog head basically, and so he wanted to work for the king or something, right? I am no biblical scholar, y'all, obviously. Okay, but he was tasked the job of carrying people across a river on his shoulders, basically, and he did it with ease until one day he picked up a small child and carried him across the river, and he kind of almost sunk to the bottom because this child was so heavy, and it turned out to be Jesus, little baby Jesus. Okay. And so that's the story of St. Christopher. There's way more to it, y'all, but that's it in a nutshell. But yeah, he was the dog-headed saint. Most depictions of him are not of a dog man. Okay. But these are, I'm just saying, there's a lot of stories behind all this. It goes way back. And you want to talk about human animal hybrids, they're in the Bible.
Very much so.
Yeah.
On a number of occasions.
Yeah, on a big number of occasions, actually. And then that's how we get into like the Nephilim and the Book of Enoch. Okay. Yeah. We could go there. And not to mention, there were some very famous historians, people in history, okay, like Marco Polo, for instance. He describes basically a dog-headed, what do they call it? A cynocephaly? Is that what they're called?
The cynocephaly.
Yeah. He described that.
Marco Polo and Christopher Columbus both.
Oh, see, I didn't know about Christopher Columbus. Was that in North America? Or
no, it was supposedly on one of the islands they visited.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, Marco Polo described these dogmen as barbaric cannibals in his travels to an island off the coast of Burma in the Indian Ocean. Yeah, he said they're no better than wild beasts, is what he said. Okay. But yeah, I mean, it's in history. Okay. I mean, a lot of explorers, especially, have stories of them. Okay. There's other explorers here. I'll tell you one account. There was a man named Cetaceus. I think that's how you pronounce his name. I'm not sure. He said, in the mountains dwell the men who have the head of a dog. They wear skins of wild beasts as clothing, and they speak no language. but they bark like dogs and they understand each other's speech. They have teeth bigger than a dog's. They understand the speech of the Indians, but cannot respond to them. Instead, they bark and signal with their hands and fingers, as do mutes, which would be deaf people. Okay. So, or hearing impaired people, right?
Right.
So, yeah.
Well, the term cynocephaly comes from the word cynocephalus, which were creatures that were described by both the Greeks and the Roman armies as these dog-headed warriors that they encountered in northern Africa and in the mountains of India. Jetski, you just froze up. Uh-oh. Looks like Jessica's having some connection issues. So we'll there you are. There you are.
It's not a show without a freeze. That's all I got to say. Okay. It's all right, DA. Am I back?
Yeah, we got you.
Okay. Yeah, it's not a show without a freeze up. I'm sorry. We're going to get a new computer as soon as I can. Okay. It's got to be my computer. Sorry, y'all. Yes, but it's these reports are all over the world from basically almost like the beginning of time of written history. There are dog people all over the world, so it makes me think that they are from here, like they're just like native to the earth, right? You'd think it at least, but then we've got modern day dogmen, DA, which are potentially working for agencies who are super soldiers, okay, who could be like a chimera or some sort of a lab made entity or being. So who knows? I don't know, DA. What do you think?
I don't think that they, me personally, and again, folks, like Jessica was saying, they're no experts in this field. Anybody that claims that they've got all the answers is either one, off their meds, or two, trying to sell you something. Nobody has all the answers, and unfortunately, there are a few people out there that try to speak as if they know everything about one subject or another. I don't believe these things were created in a lab simply because the sightings go back so long. They since long before genetic technology had ever appeared in the hands of humans. I think our government is not above experimenting on things. We know for a fact from World War II that the government tried to use both dolphins and killer whales against the enemy. So it is not above our government to try to weaponize an animal or something that they see as an asset. Dogman out there, I'm sure the government is trying to find a way to figure out to weaponize them, but I don't think they were grown in a lab.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, I've heard stories of them wearing bulletproof vests. A picture that I showed, that was my artistic rendition. Okay. I thought it was a pretty good picture though. Okay. But we've heard reports of them working for agencies. I can't even say government. I don't even know if it's government. I
Some
don't know.
alphabet soup agency.
Maybe. I don't know. I don't know what's going on anymore. And if they could possibly or potentially be extraterrestrial beings or something, I mean, that puts a whole new layer into it. Okay. It's already weird.
Anything's possible. Right now, really all we have is theory, and that's as viable a theory as anything that anybody's put forth. But simply how far back the sightings of these things go leads me to think they were always here. That doesn't mean aliens wouldn't have taken an interest in them, much like we've seen a lot of UFO sightings in and around the same places as Bigfoot sightings. I think if an advanced alien race flew across the galaxy to study life on this planet, they would probably want to study all upright walking either canids or primates.
Yeah, which makes you wonder, like, why is if our government is keeping tabs on them, if they know about them, if they're working in conjunction with the agencies, why is the public not informed about these things? I mean, it seems like it'd be a threat to our safety in some way.
Well, I've got kind of a weird theory on that. One of the earliest accounts we have of a fatal cryptid attack is the Bauman incident that was documented by Teddy Roosevelt in his book, The Wilderness Hunter. That it depicts two trappers that go up into the mountains, and one of them is killed by a Sasquatch. Uh, and this is a story that Teddy Roosevelt felt very strongly about. If you read the story, though, the level of detail that is in the story is far more than you would just get from somebody telling you a campfire story. It reads like somebody that was there. So my theory is, and I've discussed this with a lot of people, and quite a few people agree with me, that Teddy Roosevelt was actually Bauman. He had political aspirations at the time. He didn't want to come forward and say, "Hey, I saw a monster up in the mountains." Bauman's first name was never given, and the man never came forward. So, yeah, I honestly believe that Bauman was Teddy Roosevelt. Now, if you can, if you can take that, and that's not a huge leap of the imagination, but if you can take that little bit and accept that as a possibility, then flash forward to Teddy Roosevelt as president. One of the first things he does is create the national park system and cordon off millions and millions of acres that we're still not allowed total access to.
I wonder why. I'm just kidding.
Not
We all know
necessarily as a
why.
preserve, but to give these things a place to be without us messing with them and hopefully
Yes.
contain them.
Yes. Oh, but then there's another aspect to all that too. We have a lot of people that go missing from those national parks.
The missing 411 cases, yes.
That's right. And my team has documented a portal, maybe at one of those parks. It's an undisclosed location. I'm just going to say that. But we don't know what's going on there. But I do think that he did make a safe space for all of those beings, in my opinion. But there's also DUMBs, like deep underground military bases, potentially, and underground facilities of all sorts underneath those national parks. DA, there's something more going on here. It smells fishy to me. So
yeah, there's definitely more going on than we're ever going to be told. I don't think the government is ever going to be, just go, here it all is. But there has been a lot of soft disclosures. For example, the state of Ohio released a 5-part video series, each one about an hour long, of what to do in case you encounter a Bigfoot or an Ohio grassman. When I first heard they were releasing, this is Ohio Department of Natural Resources. You can look them up on YouTube. They're there to be viewed. Just put in Ohio Bigfoot videos and you'll find them. When I first heard they were doing it, I thought, well, this is probably going to be done tongue in cheek. It's going to be done as a joke, and it's really not. They're pretty serious videos, and they're really good. But we're starting to see a lot more like signage appearing in national parks that might mention Bigfoot and things like that. So I think the government is very quietly acknowledging the presence of these things, but I don't think we're ever going to get just an absolute admission.
Yeah, I doubt that too. And well, how does like the media and the government and people in charge, whoever, how do they do soft disclosure? They make jokes about everything, right? It's kind of like a soft disclosure, like they'll put it out in a comic book series, or they'll put it in a like Marvel and stuff, like these movies that they make. I firmly believe that like Doctor Strange and all these different Marvel characters and stuff, there's some truth behind all of those things. Star Wars, that movie series, there's truth behind it. Okay, but they have to put this out there, and it's funny to all of us. We laugh about it, but truth is stranger than fiction. Okay, and yeah, I've been seeing those too, DA. The Bigfoot warnings and stuff like that. People look at it and they think it's funny and they laugh about it. It's not funny. It's not funny if you're out there. I go out there. I do boots on the ground research pretty often. I was out in the woods last weekend, as a matter of fact, with my team, and there's a lot of activity, and I think the activity has really picked up. I'm not just going to say Bigfoot activity, but like all sorts of activity. I feel. I think there's more reports. I think that there's more sightings, and it could be because the veil has thinned, but I don't even know what that means anymore. I just think people are more aware of it, perhaps. But yeah, I'm fully aware. I do believe that the government does keep tabs on these dogmen. Maybe if they're migrating, and I've heard they've been chipped and collared, and I've heard there may even be agencies or contractors that control them when they get too out of hand. I've heard that as well.
I think that's entirely possible.
Yeah, I've heard that too. But yeah, I guess tonight I really wanted to talk about their origins and stuff, but we just really don't know their origins, honestly. But I do believe they do go way back in time.
I think they
Ac-
go back, centuries. And some of the first reported cases in the LBL area were in the late 1600s by French trappers, what they referred to as
Wow.
the loup garou.
Wow. Well, wouldn't that be like a werewolf kind of?
That is the French term for a werewolf, but if you didn't know what else to call it,
Yeah. They
that
all
would
look
be their
alike.
only way to describe it.
Yeah. They do look alike. Um, yeah, all dog men look alike to me. It'd be hard to tell the difference. I mean, but I've also when I've remote viewed them, they all do look kind of different. Um, even the pictures that I made, there's the German Shepherd, and then there's the fluffy German Shepherd. you know, one of them doesn't look nearly as mean as the other one. So, but there's different types, and so another thing that I did pick up when I remote viewed all these different dogmen from all over the country here in the U.S. Uh, there's two distinct different types of them. Okay. There's either the ones that want to be completely left alone, just go away. I'm not going to hurt you. And then there's the ones that are the blood suckers and want to go for your blood, want to eat you. And those are usually the ones that are associated with these agency programs that I've picked up on. Those are the violent ones. Okay. And I'm
Hmm.
just, I'm just saying that I'm just putting it out there. It's just remote viewing data. It doesn't mean I'm right. It doesn't mean anything. It's for entertainment purposes only. Okay. But however, I feel like there's two different types. There's some that are out to kill and some that are just want to be left alone when it comes to
Well,
dog
that's
man.
with any animal. I mean, there are some animals that are just aggressive. You can see that among dogs. You can have two dogs from the exact same breed, and one will be as gentle as a lamb, and the other will be more aggressive. And sometimes it's just the personality of the animal. And I think we'll see that with cryptids as well. There'll be some that are just very aggressive or very, very territorial, and there might be others that are far more passive.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. See, the ones at LBL, that was actually the first case that I looked into, and that was rough. Okay. I did find that the ones that were there were actually, the data suggested they had been either they escaped from a cage or they were kept confined underground there.
Mhm.
Okay. And they had been let loose to feed,
Well,
basically.
considering how big that area is, it's not outside the realm of possibility. I mean, that is a lot of acreage, and they're scattered concrete like pill boxes in the north part of LBL that you can still find today. They're what their original purpose was. It's hard to say, but there could have been military maneuvers that were done or things like that. But a lot of these structures are just why are they even here? That kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, because there's somebody that knows a little bit something more than what they're letting us know. That's why I think.
Well, I agree.
Um, yeah. How safe do you feel when you go out there?
LBL.
Yes.
Um, I I made a huge mistake the first time I went. They
Okay.
say don't go alone, and I did. I was going to meet Nick Valente there, and I got there a couple of days before him, and I went all over the north end of LPL, even at night by myself, and looked back and realized how bad of an idea that was. Had heard some weird things, but didn't have more sighting until Nick and I were there on our last day. But there was a lot of movement. But the strange thing about North LBL, and I don't know if this is the experience of everybody that's been there, but this was my experience. Outside of LBL, just across, we stayed in Grand Rivers. Over there were deer in our campground. There were raccoons and possums and everything you would expect to see in the wild. We even saw animals along the highway that had been hit by cars. But once you got into North LBL, I didn't see a damn thing. Not one animal,
Oh,
not
really?
roadkill, nothing. In a week in LBL, in the north part of LBL, I didn't see a single animal.
Oh, wow. Well, that happens when I'm out doing Bigfoot research as well. A lot of times there are no animals anywhere. And I know we go way far out into the woods and the mountains. But you'd think there'd be like an owl or a squirrel or something. A lot of times there's nothing out there,
Right.
but there's tons of Bigfoot activity. And we have a lot of ET activity when we're out there and just weird high strangeness. I can't even say it's all ET. It's just something different. A lot of weird stuff going on out there. But yeah, whenever you don't hear any other wildlife out there, that's a reason to worry a little bit. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's those times when you don't hear anything that I get the most worried.
Yes, me too. Me too. Silence is it can be deafening for sure. Yes. Yes. Man, we have a very busy chat tonight, by the way. Very
Yeah, I
busy
was trying to
chat.
keep up with some of the comments too, to see if I missed any questions.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't keep up with them. But yeah, everybody's really interested in the LBL though, and yeah, there was the LBL is famous for people in the chat or
Oh,
people who are
absolutely.
watching tonight that aren't familiar with the LBL story. There have been a lot of attacks there, and
Mhm.
reported missing people, and there was actually video a man who worked there. He was with the Fish and Game or something, or with the I forgot who he worked for, but he did like a deathbed confession saying that he had watched a couple be stalked and killed by a dog man there.
Yeah, he said that he saw them stalked and killed in Demumbers Bay, which is one of the places I went at night.
Oh, really? Is that where you were?
Yeah, yeah, I didn't know that story until after I'd been there.
Oh my gosh.
What we were watching some of the documentaries and some of the podcasts have been like by Elijah Henderson has done some really good ones. There's a lot of good podcasts on LBL, and we watched a few of them after our trip to LBL. And my wife is just looking at me and going, you're an idiot for going in there by yourself." I'm like, "I don't know, I won't do it again."
Oh yeah. Listen, I would. You were a very brave man for going to LBL, DA.
I
All
don't know
right,
if
am I
that
back?
would have been more on the foolhardy side than brave side.
Yeah,
I just didn't even really think
brave.
it was, yeah, crazy.
Either brave, there's a fine line between brave and silly. Okay, so just be careful going out there. I would love to go to the LBL. I've been invited up there recently. I think I'm gonna make a trip up there soon.
It's a
I've
pretty
got a
place. It
lot of
is
friends
eerie.
up there. Yeah. I would love to go. Now, I need to have, if I'm going to camp out up there, I'm going to put my tent in the middle and I need a whole bunch of people flanking me, okay, in their tents. Because that's just how I roll if I'm going to be
Yeah, I
in the
would definitely
LBL.
go with a group.
I would never go by myself. I know better. I don't go by myself bigfooting with my team. Like we never go alone. That's just one of our
It's
rules.
dangerous to go alone. I mean, it's an
Yeah.
easy way to wind up a missing person. And there are things out there in the woods that'll hurt you that have nothing to do with cryptids. One of the most dangerous being other people.
Yeah.
You can run into, you can stumble upon, like walking down a hiking trail, you could stumble upon an illegal pot grow and wind up getting shot. I mean, people are just as dangerous as any animal out there. So you've got to take
Yes.
precautions and be safe when you go because you never know what you're going to run into.
That's right. Yeah, actually, not too far from where I live, out in Alabama. This past year, we had a couple that was driving down a forest road and were flagged down by a woman who said her car was broken down and she had her friend with her and they pulled over to help. And she ended up killing, like, he ended up shooting her and she ended up shooting the guy who helped her. And it was just a big old mess. Okay. It's just very
Bizarre
dangerous out
stuff, man.
there, very bizarre. Yeah, there's actually a lot of people living out in the woods these days and stuff
Oh
that go
yeah,
out there and they have like compounds of people in the
but then
middle of
you've got
nowhere.
a what they call them, the feral people of the Appalachian Mountains, the
Yes.
people that have just lived off the grid so long they've become feral. Um, there was a question somebody said in there. Penny Van, she asked Robbie Range, "Would you go to the LBL alone like DA does?" I won't do it again.
You won't?
That
Really?
is a lesson I learned. I will not go alone again,
Did you at
and I
least have your
certainly
wife
won't
with
go
you?
unarmed.
Yeah.
No, she stayed at
No.
her and my middle son went with me on the trip, and we were going to meet Nick Valente there, but Nick was running late, so we got there before him, and they stayed at the condo over in Grand Rivers while I went over in LBL by myself.
Oh,
I
okay.
did get some good film footage though.
I didn't know you went by yourself to the LBL.
The first day and a half, almost 2 days, I was running around like 36 hours over there by myself.
Oh my gosh. Well, it'd be okay during the daytime, but once that sun goes down, I think, in my experience, like the scariest time of the entire night is right at dusk, like right when it's light and it's getting dark. The whole
Or
energetics
just at dawn,
change.
just when those
Yeah.
transitions are happening.
It is the creepiest time that I just don't like it. Like I'd rather I want to get there either in the daytime or at night. I don't like that in between time because just the whole energy shifts. You can feel it where we go and do our research. So yeah, it's yeah, I don't know. I don't know, DA. Don't ever go by yourself ever. I
Oh,
don't
not
recommend anyone watching
and I
this ever
certainly don't
go
go alone.
alone.
I
Yeah,
don't go alone anymore, and I certainly don't go unarmed.
me neither. Me neither. That's good. That's a good thing. Well, what do you think about the government keeping their eye on these things and working potentially in conjunction with them?
I think our government is not above using anything that they think can give them an advantage. Uh, so it wouldn't surprise me to find that they tried to weaponize them, or even like found some and bred them to raise them from like they would a puppy, or from a child, to teach it, to indoctrinate it into their style, and to use as troops or something like that. So I could see where something like that could be very advantageous for a military unit, but I can also see it being very difficult to control. So yeah, again, I would not say our government is above doing that sort of thing at all.
Yeah. Um, we have some funny comments. I can't pull these up. They're moving too fast, y'all. I'm so sorry. Um, yes, I don't put it past our government for any of this. And just I kind of jokingly say like the UFOs that have been shot down. I don't even know what those are. It's so confusing right now. This we live in such a crazy world. Um, you know, uh, and the fact that you're saying our government, I guess our military was weaponizing dolphins and
Yeah,
stuff like,
dolphins and killer whales in World War II. And in
wow.
fact, there was even a government plan that since most Japanese homes were made out of like thin wood or paper, there was a plan that they were using bats with little incendiary capsules strapped to their torsos, and when they would release them in clouds over off the coast of Japan, and when they would go to roost to rest for the day, that those incendiary devices would go off and set the houses on fire.
How
The plan didn't
sad.
really work very well, but it is another way they tried to weaponize an animal.
Wow.
And
So
we've
why
used
would they
dogs in the
not?
military for years.
That's right. So why would they not weaponize cryptids in some
There's
way?
I can't think of a single reason why they wouldn't. I'm shocked they haven't tried to use grizzly bears.
I mean, maybe they have. I mean, we've heard about that story. I've heard about it of um, special forces soldiers being injected with bear and wolf DNA and stuff like that. I mean, that came out. That was on that video I watched from Israeli news about Congress trying to get some funding switched over or something for a project they've been doing on that. And that's it kind of coincided with my zombie bear data from that
Mhm.
East Tennessee case that I looked into. So I don't know, DA. I don't know what's going on anymore. But I do think that yeah, I think we're on to something with all this dogman stuff. I do believe they're real. Okay.
Oh, definitely.
Um, I do believe they're real. And yeah, you have started the International Dogman Project. Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, Nick and I decided we wanted to branch out, and because I know a lot of guys that are into investigating dogman, both in Australia and in England. In fact, one of the guys is in the chat tonight. Goes under the name Tombstone. He's one of my moderators over on our channel, but he's a researcher in Australia. So we wanted to include research beyond North America. And so we're kind of branching that, and we're in the process of kind of evolving the group even further to go beyond just Dogman. So look for some changes, as we continue to tweak the organization and adjust our goals. But our plan is to create an organization where we can record data on all possible cryptids, pretty much anywhere on the globe.
Oh wow! So are you guys going to be taking reports of dogman sightings and putting those
Mhm.
in some kind of a database?
That's the plan.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Awesome. Well, I'm looking forward to that. If you guys need any help down in the South, I'm down here. And I don't know what regions y'all got, but I'm in the southern region. So y'all hit me up. I'm here to help.
Definitely, we definitely
Yeah.
will.
Yeah. That's awesome. Well, DA, where can people find you? Tell everybody about your book series and your website.
You can find all of my books. I write cryptid fiction as well as zombie fiction, sci-fi, and fantasy. You can find all of my stuff at daroberts.net. I host a twice weekly podcast called DA Ex Machina, and I've got a great group of co-hosts over there. Most of them are in the chat tonight, being pretty lively. Anthony Canatella, Robbie Rains, Steve Monrotis, Carrie Pocket, Doc Davis, who owns Dark Angel Medical. Just a great group of guys over there. So hope you guys to check us out over at the DAX Machina podcast. We do a show similar like this, only we try to take a more logical approach. I'm not saying you don't, Jessica. I'm just saying.
Wait a second. Whoa.
I'm not saying you don't.
Offense,
No.
DA. What?
No, that's not what I meant. But yeah, we look for logical explanations to what people consider the woo.
Yes.
And granted, not all of the sightings are going to be able to be explained logically, but we look for commonalities and we look for ways to explain certain elements. And that's just the approach we take, because most of us are retired law enforcement or military in one form or another. John Allen says you've got to mention Uncle John. Yeah, Uncle John pops in from time to time. But we've got a good group of people over there, and we take a very logical approach, and we try to be as balanced as we can. But most of us coming from a law enforcement or military style background, again, we take a very how can we logically explain this approach? And there are cases where you simply can't. But
that's right.
Our first step isn't aliens. Like the guy on the History Channel, aliens. That's not our first. It's always aliens, but that's not our first jump. We try to look for ways to explain some of these encounters. And I think
many things can be explained away too by bears and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, there are a lot of sightings that are just misidentification, and I'm not saying that's all of them. Not in any way, shape, or form. But unfortunately, there are also a lot of things out there that are put forth as evidence there aren't.
A lot of pareidolia and stuff with
there's a lot of pareidolia out there. Red circle pictures are what I refer to as bullshitography.
I like that. But, just don't entertain it. I don't entertain it.
I don't. We don't even deal with red circle photos anymore. Something I want to shy away from. But we have a good time at it. And like I said, we getting tongue tangled. We broadcast every Wednesday and Saturday night at 8 p.m. Central. And this Wednesday we'll be talking about some of the the UFO encounters over the last few weeks. And I think it's going to be a good show. So I hope you guys will tune in and check us out. And make sure you go by the Cryptid Huntress and Spaced Out Radio and like, share, and subscribe to those channels. Go by Jessica's Patreon, the Cryptid Huntress on patreon.com, and subscribe to that because she needs a new computer, folks.
I need a new
help her. Let's help her get a new computer.
Oh my God. Thank you. I totally need a new computer. Absolutely. Thank you, DA. It's always a pleasure having you here. You're so fun. And this is a great conversation tonight. I do appreciate you so much. And
anytime. My pleasure.
Come back and see me. Okay. Anytime. You're always welcome here. Okay.
Thank you very much.
DA. Have a good night. Okay. Thank you. We'll see you next time. All right, y'all. DA's he's a hoot, man. I always have a good time with him. Don't forget that right after this show, After Hours has a great show lined up for us. I think they're live right now. They're going to take you on an incredible, mysterious journey for the next 3 hours. I'm going to see y'all next week on Off the Trails. For now, I'm the Cryptid Huntress, Jessica Jones. I'm headed off the trails. I hope you guys have a wonderful week. I will see y'all back here next week. Please join me on Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern on my YouTube channel, The Cryptid Huntress. Y'all have a great week. Okay.